All right, well, welcome. Thank you for coming to the Washington State University Cougs in Space Forum. We're bringing this event back after a hiatus due to the pandemic. So we haven't had this since before then, but we had a very successful several events prior to the pandemic. So we're hoping to build this back up again. So thank you for coming. My name is Sandy Brabb. I'm the Director of Career Services for the Voiland College of Engineering and Architecture. And the forum today is a collaborative effort between the Voiland College, the Cougs in Space Club, which is a club in the Voiland College, the Academic Success and Career Center, the Carson College of Business, and the College of Arts and Sciences. So I know we have representatives from all of those colleges here, student-wise, and I appreciate you coming. So we're thrilled to have you and today as we dive into the fascinating world of aerospace and space exploration. The event is designed to connect you with the industry leaders and innovators, including some of our WSU alumni who have forged successful careers in these exciting paths. Today's agenda is going to kick off with an alumni and industry panel where you're going to hear firsthand insights and career path information and experience from people who have been working in the industry. Then afterwards, I would like to invite you to join us for a networking mixer where we're going to serve some food for a great chance to connect directly with our visiting employers and alumni. And then we're going to close with our keynote address from a distinguished WSU alumnus whose journey in the aerospace industry promises to inspire us and challenge us all. So we hope today sparks new ideas, connections, and aspirations. So let's make the most of it. And as always, go Cougs. All right, thank you. So our moderator for the panel today had a medical issue and isn't able to join us, so it looks like you're going to be stuck with me today. So sorry about that, but we're going to get right off to it. I'm going to introduce our panel, and then I'm going to get to our questions. And I'm going to promise to save some time at the end for question and answers from the audience. So I'm going to start off with Romeo Bandison, right here. He is a pilot recruiter for Alaska Airlines. Romeo is a talent acquisition partner for the Horizon Pilot Development Program. He has been with the Alaska Air Group for close to 2.5 years, and he has recruiting experience in a variety of industries, including quick serve, hospitality, athletics, and mental health. He's originally from the Netherlands, but he has an economics degree from the University of Oregon. And he told me earlier he also played on the football team, so he's been here before. All right, and next to Romeo is David Beam, is a manufacturing engineering manager with Columbia Helicopter. David graduated from WSU in 2015 with a Bachelor of Science in Material Science and Engineering. He began his aerospace career at Precision Cast Parts in Portland, working on large structural titanium castings for Rolls-Royce jet engines used in the Boeing 787 Dreamliner and Airbus A330neo. In 2019, he joined Columbia Helicopters as a materials and process engineer, and since 2022, he has been the manufacturing engineering manager overseeing the manufacturing and materials engineering group. So sitting next to David is Kenneth Eversole, who is a systems reliability engineer with Cloudflare. Kenneth is a 2019 computer science graduate from WSU. And after graduation, he went to work for Boeing on their Apache training simulators, but quickly went on to work as an early engineering employee for a startup called Balto. Maybe you can tell us more about that later. Today, he is a senior software engineer at Cloudflare working on their R2 storage platform. And finally, last but not least at all, is Jamie Soule, who is a recruiter also with Alaska Airlines. Jamie's responsible for sourcing talent across the Alaska Air Group, from international development director to supervisor in Nome, to product design, to maintenance supervisor, and all things in between. She has been at Alaska Airlines for 3 years, all in the recruiting spaces. But prior to joining Alaska, Jamie worked at Lululemon, managed a yoga studio, and started her professional journey as an elementary school teacher after she earned her elementary education degree in 2007 from WSU. Outside of work, she volunteers for the Northwest WAG Rescue. Boy, that's a mouthful. Let me know if you're in. She wants you to know. Let her know if you're interested in fostering or adopting an animal. So that's who you'd want to talk to down there. She teaches yoga and enjoys travel. So let us welcome today's panel. All right, I'm going to try and start off with an easy one, okay? Okay. Could each of you share a brief overview? Yeah, you need to turn on your microphone there. Could each of you share a brief overview of your career path and how you got to your current position? So, Romeo, I'll start with you.
Okay. Wow, my journey was definitely a little bit different. My background was always athletic, so this is my second career. I was between jobs, and a friend of mine was building a business, and I started helping them on the recruiting side, sourcing, and that's how I progressed from a sourcer to recruiter to account manager, and that was kind of my route, and that's how I became a recruiter in just different industries, but always talent acquisition, always looking to hire people, always working in HR. And then one day I was looking for positions, and Alaska Airlines was available, and it just seemed like a really interesting job. The stuff that we do, we work on development. So people who want to get into Alaska, either maintenance or piloting, or we do internships as well. We help them pay for their studies and then offer them a contract to come work for us when they're done. But that's how I got started, just second career, and fell into it, but love it. I really enjoy being part of people's journeys into their next career.
Thank you. So how I got into aerospace was different than a lot of people I work with. You know, a lot of people planned on it. It was what they thought about, whether they had family or friends that were pilots, worked in aviation one way or another. I just started growing up. I was really into machining, metal fabrication. That led me to WSU in engineering. I went into material science with a passion for metallurgy, and I didn't really know what I was going to do with that out of school. And I found my first job at Precision Cast Parts, as mentioned, which was an aerospace supplier, making these large titanium castings. And once I started that career 10 years ago in aerospace, there was no going back. I fell in love with it. Everything from the criticality of it, knowing that every product you make and put out has impact. You fall in love with this aspect of, I go to the airport and I get on a plane. I'm looking at the plane like, oh, what plane is this? What engines are on here? Did I work on some of these parts? It kind of gets you hooked. So I really love that. And here I went 10 years later. I didn't leave the industry, and I don't really plan to because of that. The impact that it has on you. Was it what I planned on? No. Will it change? Not a chance now. So that was kind of my background. Again, material science. I got into casting. I moved to the job at Columbia Helicopters, where I went from building parts for airplanes to being able to work on the final product itself, like working on helicopters. And the best part of my job is that I could leave my desk at lunch, go out, sit in the parking lot, and then watch helicopters take off in the back on test flights or training flights. And it's incredible getting to see the product that you work on and take off, or even ride in a helicopter. It's the greatest thing. So that's kind of what got my background.
So currently I'm kind of the odd one out. I don't work in aerospace right now, and but to kind of walk it back a little bit, how did I get into the field I have in the path I've taken? It's really kind of one word. It's curiosity. I founded the Cougs Space Club with a bunch of other wonderful students back in 2016. And what got us doing that was curious. Aerospace is the edge of all engineering, and things kind of come back from there. We have GPS and things like that for it. So that's why I joined it. It is, and it's why I follow it today. It's pretty hard to beat a rocket being caught, or a plane taking off, or fly a plane. It's the most it is the beginning of all curiosity for me at moments. Life is kind of taking a different path, and I implore you to follow your gut and your heart at moments, and you kind of have to balance curiosity and the realities of life. So I currently am a systems reliability engineer or senior engineer at Cloudflare, and technology it's kind of neat when you see that, because it does a lot come from aerospace, a lot of how we think about things to make it reliable because it needs to work. There's not a lot of times you get onto a plane and you're like, hopefully it works. It works like all the time. And when it doesn't, it's a ginormous deal. And that shows to the testament of great engineering and the people a part of it. So yeah, I mean, it's a kind of a wild journey, and I implore you, if you have questions about careers and life and all of that, I'm fair game for it. That's why I'm here. But yeah, it's curiosity. There's a lot of wonderful things happening in this world, and aerospace is the beginning of it. So.
Thanks. So as you heard in the introduction, this was definitely not my first job. Graduated with elementary education, did that for 7 years. I just evolved, and my passions kind of changed. So being curious about what else there is that is available to me. It was not in my intention to end up at Alaska Airlines. However, my husband works here and has been at Alaska for 10 years as a pilot. My dad worked at Boeing, so it was just something that I was always around, and my husband always had the best things to share about his job. Just curious, has anybody in the room flown on Alaska or Horizon? So a lot of you. The thing that I love about my job is generally in the world, networking or otherwise, people will say, oh, what do you do for work? And I say, I work for Alaska Airlines. And 99% of the time they say, oh, I love Alaska Airlines, unless it's snowing in Seattle. But I really love my job. I came in on a whim. I got curious about what other opportunities existed for me, what values that companies had that aligned with mine, and those were places that I put my applications into. I definitely had to take a pay cut to try a different industry, but in the end, hopefully it's worth it. I plan on retiring from here. I've only been here for 3 years, but come 65.
Okay. So how many of you had an internship in any way, shape, or form, but an internship prior to getting your first job? Who wants to talk about that? Okay, 3 of you did. Okay.
Mine was actually through WSU. There was somebody on campus recruiting for Camp Adventure. And so with my background or being in the education department, we went to military bases during the summer and volunteered our time to do like a summer school program. But that was really cool. Went to Okinawa, and then the following year went to Germany.
Well, I did not go to either one of there. So I had 2. But I'll include being in clubs like as a third. I think if you're not in a club, I implore you to be a part of one. There's some incredible clubs here. But I had 2. One was at SEL in town. It was a kind of eye-opener. So my background is in software. Software doesn't change if it's on a plane or on your iPhone. There just changes in how it needs to be reliable. SEL was like the first entry into that, and it was definitely eye-opening. You have to write code into specifications, and you have Jira tickets, and it's not like a classroom where you're like given a thing and do a thing. You have to write it and improve on it. The other one was at, I think technically at the time it was Dell. It was bought by EMC. It was a little startup called Isilon. A lot of our alumni have gone there. And if you ever have the privilege to go there, there's a whole channel for Casey Wang memes. He's I think retired now or something, but he's very integral to our computer science program. I think he's taught since 1969, pretty short amount of time. And both of them, it shows how the industry works, and it moves really, really quickly. Software is very important for that. And yeah, I mean, it's I wouldn't be where I'm at without the internships. truthfully.
Yeah. David?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, like I wasn't looking in aerospace when I was in school. So when I took an engineering internship, I was doing design engineering for electric bike company startup, and I was just doing design work on CAD, making everything from like handlebar brackets to like designing frames and battery cases and that sort of thing. But what I found was like that experience that I got rolled over tremendously, and then the fact that I was, the 4 or 5 years that you're at WCU, they go by really fast. And I was graduating with other engineers, and it was like all of a sudden it was job hunting time, and they'd go like, oh no, like they look at their resume and it's like it's lab experience, it's school experience, and they're like, I didn't really do any internships because like OSU, there's certain schools that will have like an internship program where you take a semester off and get that experience, and it's great on a resume. If you're not going out and looking for those internship opportunities, it can slip right by you. And when you're looking at resumes and you see that someone has a good amount of internship experience outside of lab work and projects, it makes a huge difference. So luckily I had that background, and it wasn't related to my field, but having it was big and got me my job. On the other side of that too, we hire a lot of interns onto full-time positions. So I think it's a big foot in the door wherever you go. It's the first resume you're going to look at when you're trying to hire an associate engineer or in really any field. But when you're trying to hire someone, your resume is going to the top of the list if you have an internship at that place, and it works very well.
And I'll just add that even though people that talked about internships were talking specifically for their area, that applies to all students in all majors.
Yeah.
If you can have some sort of practical experience in your area that you're studying, that's going to get you a long way in your future career. So.
Definitely.
All right, so who would like to take on the question of name the biggest challenge that you've had in your career thus far, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I can start. The biggest challenge, this is engineering specific again, but when you're working for a production company, all companies' goal is to make money, to make a profit at the end of the day. And engineering can sometimes be looked at as like a speed bump or a roadblock to production. Now, that's not necessarily the case, and especially in aerospace, we were talking about this earlier, where you actually get to carry a lot of weight because safety is first, and at any time of the day you can stop and call out safety and use that card. But a challenge is working with people in different aspects of the business to understand the importance of your work, and really it's the communication skills, the verbal skills that you have to work with people and be like, hey, we have the same goal at the end of the day. We want a safe, quality product going out the door. People's lives are quite literally at stake when you're working in aerospace, and being able to negotiate that is quite a skill to have. I've worked with engineers that prefer to sit at their desk and keep to themselves, and then I work with people on operations side that like, I don't want to deal with you. I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this forever. I've been doing this my whole life. But being able to bridge that gap and have that dynamic work environment is really important. So, yeah, I guess communication across departments, I think that's a big uphill battle to overcome sometimes.
So, kind of going off the same engineering thing, I think a lot of engineers, I definitely thought this, that if you were to look at engineering, it's like 80% doing project work and 20% dealing with people. I hate to tell you, and this is something I had to go through, I would go to say it's the exact opposite. It's 80% dealing with people and 20% dealing with projects. And why do I think that? It's first off, we are here to build products and things, but for people. They need to want to use them and want to impact their life and change their life. The other one is we're doing it typically on teams. You cannot do it alone. I can tell you that. I mean, it is very difficult to build anything revolutionary or even normally good without a team of great people with you. So the biggest overcome is during schooling, you're given these projects. Like, you do it, do X, Y, Z, produce a result. And you work with teams, but your project and your success is measured by you. And that's great. And that's what you need. You need to learn how to use the tools that we're given. But in the working or the industry world, it's much different. It's a team. If I don't know it, I need to set this aside, or my ego aside, and ask my coworker. It's nothing wrong, because the bigger thing is the objective we're trying to solve as a team. And to be very honest, this is not something that comes easy to most people. Even myself, I struggle with all the time. Someone gives you feedback on something, you're like, oh, I worked really hard on it. And then all of a sudden, no. Because the bigger thing is so the biggest learning is the humanity of engineering and of business, of life, of community is immensely important. Yeah.
Okay, I think for me it was is learning new things and not seeing the payoff right away. So you had to just put in the work and then wait for it to come to fruition or develop, or for it to work. That was something I had to learn, or just like I took a class for a certificate. It's study for 3-4 months, take a test that takes 2 hours, and hopefully you pass. And then you got to put into your work and see how it applies to you every day, or in your daily, in your current job. So for me, that was probably a hard thing. And also submitting ideas. Everybody has good ideas, and everybody has something to offer, and everybody deserves to be listened to. You can't always execute every single idea. So working through that and not getting discouraged and continuing to come up with new ideas on how to improve something, how to change the process, and then even though it's not always, able to execute it in your workplace, that was something I had to learn, and to continue that drive and always not to get discouraged.
I know there's more questions. So.
Okay. Yeah. So if any of you have visited with your career services professional to help with your jobs and search and whatnot, we've probably talked to you a lot about soft skills, right? So you've probably heard that term before, also called transferable skills or power skills. So I'm going to ask the panelists here, tell me, what is the most important soft skill that you think a student needs to have going into their first job? And this could either be just related to the job, or you two as recruiters, what you're looking for.
Excel. Just no spreadsheets. That's it. You go to college forever. You just need to know Excel. No, I make that joke because I actually didn't use Excel very much when I was in college. And then the first thing I started doing was data analysis on production. We were able to collect so much data at that first company I worked for to understand processes and what would go wrong, how to find defects and stuff. And I spent months just taking all this data, figuring out, it's so much data, you got to figure out how to sort it and look at it and actually get information from it. So there's a lot of pivot tables and stuff, but it's something that you overlook, and having those small skills was huge. And then obviously in engineering, there's the CAD, there's MATLAB, there's different kind of programming and techniques that are big, but no one teaches you how to necessarily look at large sums of data. Usually you're looking at very specific stuff, and you have answers in front of you, whether it's a textbook or a report or something, you have the answers in front of you. But being able to go find that stuff, I think is huge. And that's something that I've carried on today. You could really solve problems with the information that you're given if you know how to find it and manipulate it.
I think a big one is just piggybacking is just being able to communicate, even if it's in your internship. That's really your first job interview, because the work you do there, if you apply for that role, people are going to say, oh yeah, they did this really great job during the summer. But once you do get that interview, making sure you're making eye contact, you have a strong handshake, your resume looks good, you're not using your lease agreement and uploading that as your resume, you're making sure that you have the correct version of it. It's a lot of little things that will get you to an end point, but continue to, always work on communication, because there's always going to be somebody who wants their idea first. So really listening to understand somebody else's perspective, I think, is just really important, because I think we can do a lot better at listening in general.
You stole my thunder. I was going to say the same thing. Communication. You're always going to have to work with people. In my experience, like the IT people, they want to be on their own and not deal with anybody. So that's always the example we use. But you got to be able to communicate with people, work together. You could be working on a project together. You might have to give somebody tough feedback one day or receive feedback. Communication, that's probably, in my experience, one of the most important things you can have as a soft skill.
Mm-hmm.
So looking back, to be very pointed in like the transition from college to industry, humility. I think this is important, because you're at the part of your career right there. I would say your job or big role of your function is to learn. And the humility part is to be patient and listen. And I be very critical of myself. Your immediate reaction at times when people to do a plan or have a plan, you want to be the driver of it. You want to be the winner of it. Sometimes your role is to be a follower, and that comes with enormous humility with that. And that's important to look at, and why it's going to come back to this idea of you're a team. And not everyone can be the leader, and leadership doesn't look like you're at the front. Sometimes it's being quiet and listening. And yeah, I mean, the biggest soft skill I will probably harp on is obviously the communication one. You need to have direct and pointed. But the humility part is very important. Some teammates will not talk out, and your job is to realize that they come from a different background, or some people will monopolize the time. Humility.
Okay, thank you. So, have any of you had mentors throughout your career? And if you did, how did they influence your professional development?
I did. I had a couple of really good ones. Thinking back now, what stood out was they were willing to help me in any kind of way and always support me no matter what. I was always able to bounce ideas off them. They were always honest. They were always honest. Sometimes my ideas were good, or what I talked to was positive, but sometimes it was not, and they'll let me know that I need to change my attitude and work or look at things a different way. But the mentors that I had, there were people that I always could call on, ask for advice, and they could always help me, point me in the right direction. And that's what they provided for me. And I was able to do the same thing for others as well. And maybe not so much. I don't think I was ever a mentor for somebody, but I was always able to help somebody, because I wanted to do the same thing that somebody else did for me.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Every job that you are going to get is going to have its difficulties, and it's going to have great things, and your job is to make the best of it. So the grass is greener where you water it. If you find somebody that you can look up to, that you can go to and ask for feedback, because feedback we talk a lot about, but it's not always given freely. So if there's somebody that you can build rapport with, that you trust to get their feedback of your work or however that falls, 100% do that. Be a mentor to somebody else. Get involved. Be curious. Mentorship's what you make it, but definitely find one and be one.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think you guys said it. You have the same exact feelings on it. So I think it's huge. It really can guide you throughout your career and where you go, and figure out what you want to do. You know, find someone who's been in industry longer than you, and similar personality or anything, but they'll be able to guide you. You guys summed it up well.
Okay, great. And I will just put a plug in here. Both the Carson College and the Voiland College have mentorship programs. So if you're interested in getting a mentor, come talk to your career services professional in your college. All right. So how do you maintain a good work-life balance in your jobs?
This one's tough, to be very honest, because as life goes on, the truth is more responsibility gets added to your shoulders. If you get like a mortgage and then you get a significant other and children, and if that's the path, it's just more on your shoulders. So it becomes, I almost wouldn't say it's work-life balance. It's like I don't know. It's still trying to figure out the answer to that one, truthfully. Ask me in 80 years. But the answer, what I'm kind of going with is there's going to be moments where things require 100% of your attention. It could be personal or work. And you got to realize that you're not a superhero. You're a human being. And take that with what you want. I don't want to give that answer to you because that will require kind of moments, very, very hard choices or anything, and you're going to have to make them kind of with your own gut and heart and brain. But listen to all three.
Yeah, I mean, I'll piggyback off of you're not a superhero. I think that right there is a great point. So you can't always do everything. I found pretty early in my career, like I was putting everything into work. Again, it was a production facility, so it was 24/7 plant, and I had a work phone. They had my number all the time, vacation and stuff. And there was a point where it felt like it was eating into my personal life, or if there was something going wrong, or if I was having a headache at work, I would start to bring that home. And my wife sat down with me at one point. She went to school here. We've known each other for 12 years. She's seen me through my most stressed times going through finals in engineering. She's been with me through a lot of personal stuff in my life. And she's like, this is rolling in. This is affecting us. And we were at the point where, we were buying a house. We were getting ready to start a family. And we have now. And she's like, we got to make a deal. And it was turning off work when I wasn't at work. And it made a huge difference in my life. When I moved to a different company, it was something I tried to do from the start, is know when work stops and know when your personal life starts. And really, there's always you need someone to vent to, your significant other or your family or your best friend. It's you need someone to vent to about work or sometimes, but don't turn that into a regular thing. It's try to just leave that behind. Talk about life of life outside of work when you're outside of work. And I think it made a huge difference in my life. Trying to take that stress off from work when you're not at work.
I absolutely a balance. And some days it will go heavy on the work, maybe some months, some years. And then you try to even that out as best you can. For me, I schedule things. So I teach yoga, I teach bar. I enjoy doing those things. I volunteer. I build a schedule. And so my work has to stop because I have to get to this class so that I can decompress from my work. That's what works for me, and you'll find what works for you. But I'm not about that grind life. Find time for yourself. You should not be working 80 hours a week. You don't get paid enough to do that. So find your boundaries as you progress through your career.
I'm thinking of everybody who has a job, and especially if you've been in your career for a while. When have you ever caught up with all your emails or all your work? You never do. There's always work left, so it'll be there tomorrow. That's how I balance it. You'll never catch up, so I kind of do what you do. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to travel, and there are certain things I'm passionate about, and I make time for that. And also, try to be as efficient as I can at work so I get all my work done. But turn the phone off, turn the computer off, stop looking at your email. We have a great team, so I'm fortunate where if I miss a week, they won't skip a beat. And I think everybody's job is going to be that way. So I'd say find the things you're really, that you love. find things you love and make time for that. And then, there's always more work, and it'll be there on Monday.
That's true. All right, I want to make sure we have time for questions from the audience. So if you have some questions, raise your hand, and maybe, Jamie, could you take a microphone around to anyone who might have a question? Come on. Raise your hand if you have a question. Go down here.
Hi, everyone. My name's Kirsten. I'm a marketing and MIS major here. And this past summer, I had the honor to intern at Boeing for 10 weeks under their finance internship. And then I ended up getting a job offer back, which I'm super excited about. However, with everything going on with the company right now, I know that's also tied to the industry as a whole, not just Boeing completely. So I'd be lying if I'd say I wasn't a little bit scared, but it is the reality of working in the industry. So do you guys have any advice or things going forward for us looking into working in the industry in this kind of reality of what's actually going on?
Yeah, I can't speak to what's happening at Boeing, but it's affecting everybody in the industry, and it trickles down. So it affects, the amount of planes that we have, and then the amount of people we can hire, and the amount of people we can upgrade, and it just trickles down. The one thing I know about aviation or aerospace industry is it always changes. So this too will pass, and when it's going to be great, and then it's going to be not so great at times. It just is what it is, and you have to be prepared for that. But I believe this too will pass. But yeah, Boeing does seem to have some things that they have to fix. But once they do, I think a lot of positive things will happen again. But I think it's life where there's always going to be uncertainty in your job, and you just got to be mentally prepared for all of those things, and set yourself up to be able to survive all those things if there's a downturn. That's what I would say.
Kind of going off that, I'll answer in two parts. The first one is personal. Spend less than you make and save it, and realize that a great job can end. A position a company's in is not, it may seem like, oh, they're the only one having bad moments. This is an ebb and a flow in all business. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. So have a good understanding of personal finance, of regardless of field that you're in. I think when you do that, it makes what I'm about to say, I would look at the Boeing thing as truthfully, this is putting the SRE hat on. Every problem is an opportunity. You either will learn what definitely not to do if it doesn't work out or correct it, or you can be part of the change. And if you're a part of the change, your career is now in your hands. The amount of people that want that quality or that skill set that you can take a ship, make it from not sinking, and direct it into a winning position, there's not a lot you can say that's the best skill you could ever have on a resume. So to answer your very pointed question, I would follow with it. I would, if I were in your situation, it's like, yeah, look at it like a moment of opportunity. You know the risk. You know them enough, and realize and mitigate against it. But travel forward. There's a lot to learn right there. There's a lot to learn as an industry. There's a lot to learn for you. Problems are not problems. They're moments of opportunity. That is a mentor thing.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. If you can ride out a storm, opportunities will show up out of nowhere. It's really easy to jump ship at places, and this is assuming you have the opportunity to stay on. Layoffs happen, like we said. Job security is what it is. But if you can ride out a storm, I think it does tremendous for your career path. It shows that you're willing to stick through thick and thin, and opportunities will arise from that. That's what I've found, at least.
Okay, any other questions?
No, I was just going to say negotiate.
Negotiate.
Because women often don't. So if you have the opportunity to negotiate a salary, negotiate it.
Other questions? Okay. Well, I have one more then for our panel. So what one word of advice, we've heard one already, but what one word of advice would you give college students who are looking to get into the career in aerospace or space or in your area?
One word.
Okay, one statement.
If I can give a statement, you never know who your next captain is going to be. So that to say, go out and network, go meet people. You don't know where the next opportunity presents itself. So treat everybody with respect, do good work, listen.
Okay, thank you.
That was way more than one word.
That's okay.
I'm going to say, speak up for yourself. You're at your point in your life where you don't have parents and family that are necessarily going to speak out for you. It's your job to go get it. And you can't just sit and wait for opportunities. You have to go find those opportunities. So speak up for yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, you can.
I would say don't fear failure. Failure is learning. You learn something new. You learn what to do, what not to do, and take a chance, bet on yourself. All ideas, not all ideas are good ideas until you make it happen, and also this is a great idea. So go for it. If you have a passion, follow it, and go for 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of riff off everyone here, and I won't answer the question. I'll leave you with one. It's from Iris. We sat down at a table one time, and she looked me in the face. And if you don't know her, she was the VP of Lockheed Space, and during the time of Cougs in Space, and she just looked at me and said, "What do you want?" So I'll leave you at that. We could tell you all the advice in the world of our journey, but what do you want? So.
All right. Well, thank you very much, panel. And give everybody a big hand here. You did a wonderful job. I do want to, we have some gifts, right? Okay. All right. So we have a gift for each of you for participating in our panel. And we wanted to thank you very much for your time and energy today. Of course, Romeo, it's all WSU related. Display it proudly on your desk.
Anybody want some gifts? Come see me.